All right, well, it's going to be me now. I am Daniel Schep. I'm going to be presenting about making maps with Ultra, a tool I built. A lot of us at least, are familiar to a degree with Overpass Turbo, which is a leaflet-based query tool for the Overpass API. It features styling capabilities that are driven by map CSS, and it's a great tool. Used to use it all the time, but I don't know map CSS. I do know MapLibre's style spec, however. So I built something called Ultra now. It is available at overpassultra.us that uses MapLibre to render Overpass, among other things, results, and style them. So you can do, this is an example here of two things that you can't do with Overpass Turbo, namely heat maps and sort of these fancy cartographic effects like on the right, which is glowing map of bus stations in Paris. Other thing is, in Overpass Turbo, we've probably seen this window when we query a large amount of data warning us that it's going to be slow, and then it's slow and it kind of chokes. One of the reasons I built Ultra is because I was familiar with MapLibre and Mapbox and the fact that they have excellent GeoJSON support. And when you load that same sort of amount of data in MapLibre compared to Leaflet, you get this very smooth interaction with a huge amount of data through really no effort of my own as an engineer. The great people at Mapbox and MapLibre made this possible. As I mentioned, Overpass Turbo used map CSS. So here we have, you can kind of see it up there, a map of various types of amenities, drinking fountains, hotels, cafes, and then they're styled in different colors. It uses this language called map CSS, which looks like a dialect of CSS if you're familiar with web development, but it's for styling map elements rather than DOM elements. But again, I don't know it. But I do MapLibre styling. So in Ultra, you can specify, I wish that was bigger, I'm sorry, styles with the MapLibre style spec, and this is recreating pretty much that same Overpass Turbo query that was styled in Ultra. So like I said, it uses MapLibre. There are, however, some differences with the MapLibre style spec. So the way you configure Ultra is through something called YAML front matter. If you've used static site generation tools like Jekyll, this will be familiar to you. It's a block of YAML, which is yet another markup language, I think is what it stands for, that lets you encode data in a fairly human-readable and typable format. Has its detractors for sure. I understand the downsides, but I like it. So you can specify YAML. The big differences are you don't need to specify a source layer. If you're familiar with MapLibre, every layer has a source definition. By default, Ultra will assume that, oh, you are styling your query results, so you don't have to specify that. Similarly, you don't have to give it an ID. It's like, the ID is really not that useful in most contexts, actually, so it just generates one. Additionally, you don't have to define an entire MapLibre style, which if you ever worked with MapLibre styles, you know they're massive. You don't want to have to think about that. You want to just have a base map, as we're all familiar with. So in the style key, you can specify an extends key, and here, for example, I'm using OSM Liberty from OpenFreeMap. By default, it uses the open map tiles OSM Cardo-like theme. But you don't need to know where to get these styles. There's a button in Ultra. You just pick style, and you have a gallery with a preview. I have a wide collection of open map tiles styles. Proto map styles are available there. Stamen or Stadia has graciously offered free use of their styles as well as Stamen styles, which they host. as has Trace Stack Cardo, and I have a personal style of my own in there. The YAML support allows some of the more, admittedly, again, controversial features of YAML, but I find useful, such as anchors, which allow you to avoid repeating yourself. In this case, we're, say, reusing the color red, but in this example here, we had a complex expression defining the color, and it allowed me to define it only once, and then reuse it for both the fill of the circle and the stroke of the circle. Additionally, inspired by Steve Bennett's MapGL util library, while I say I know the MapLibra style spec, I can never remember whether, okay, circle color, I can usually remember that that's a paint key, but there are some things I just can't for the life of me remember whether it's a paint key or a layout key. So Ultra makes it so that you don't have to remember that, and it will automatically sort it into the right place according to what the style spec says it should go. Other big benefit is that as a vector rendering engine, MapLibra can do things that Leaflet just can't do. So this here is a map of bicycle infrastructure, including both bike lanes as well as, it's a little hard to see, but things like bicycle repair stations and bike parking. And if you were doing this in Overpass Turbo, which allows you to customize icons and stuff as well, you would have, if there was something in OSM Cardo in that base map where this data you're querying is, it'll, they'll just be overlapping and the map will look a little cluttered. Because MapLibra does client-side symbol collision, those base map elements that conflict with the data you're trying to add will go away, allowing you to make a less cluttered map. And similarly, you can sandwich layers, so it's not very clear here, but the road labels, as well as you can kind of see maybe the ref box here a little bit better, are above the bike lane data that I've added to the map. So you don't obscure things like the name of a road with the data you're adding. Sorry. Additionally, this is actually very similar to Turbo again. I bundle a couple sprite sheets that automatically get added to your style so that you can easily visualize your results with different icons. I include the Maki and Temaki icon sets from Mapbox and Rapid teams respectively. Those are bundled as SDF sprites, which the TLDR on that is it lets you change the color, which is very useful. And more recently, I've added Google's Nado emoji as a sprite sheet. So you can, allows for more sort of fun maps where you use emojis as your map markers. And for example, a cool data-driven map I made using this. This is the example I have in my docs for emojis is, this is a map of place country nodes in the world. And then I use the ISO 3166 tag on it to automatically choose the emoji of that country's flag, and you have an emoji country map. This actually, maps like this serve as QA maps unintentionally. And when I first made this, I had 2 or 3 question marks on it and was like, what's going on there? It turns out a few countries in Western Africa had the ISO, or it had a different standard. I forget which one, but they disagreed on what the country codes are. So I fixed the ISO country codes because every map is a QA map. This is also fun to do things like you can actually map the flagpoles in front of the UN and get a little icon for each country's flag. Why is it Ultra, not Overpass Ultra? Because about a year ago or so, it really went beyond Overpass. I added support for something called query providers, which sort of refactor out how Ultra gets its data. It doesn't just get data from Overpass now. It can get data from Overpass, PostPass, the new PostGIS-based query service that Overpass Turbo also supports that I believe Friedrich Rahm of GeoFabric introduced at FOSGIS recently. But it supports things like Sparkle, QLever, file formats such as KML, GPX, GeoJSON. So one advantage of that is services like QLever can be way more performant than Overpass. For example, this is a query of all restaurants tagged as pizza places in the world. And this is not sped up. That was how fast that happened. And you know if you use Overpass that like we would have been sitting here probably for 2-3 minutes before we got those results. So it doesn't update as fast as Overpass, but it's really cool for these planet scale queries that you can just get all of that data in an instant. And then MapLibre doesn't choke on it either. Another fun thing, it uses END's excellent Esri dump library so that you just paste in a map server or feature server URL and pulls down that data, converts it to GeoJSON, puts it on your map. So that's just another way you can get data to make maps and style them. Most recently, I'm excited to announce this. If you're familiar with just cartography and you've used tools like QGIS especially, you might have done some fun cartographic effects, like you just grab a polygon in QGIS and then you say, I want to style this as an inverted polygon. MapLibre can't do that. So I integrated a transform step that in between fetching the data from the server and passing it to MapLibre, you get to specify some JavaScript code that executes. And in this case, I import the mask library from turf.js, mask the boundary of Boston here, and I'm showing, instead of showing you where Boston is, I'm hiding where Boston isn't. So that you can do a lot more cool stuff. You can, at this point, opens more analytical capabilities you could leverage, but my motivation was for cartographic effects that MapLibre can't do without data processing. Another feature that I recently shipped is, at its core, MapLibre, or at its core, Ultra is just generating a MapLibre style and then applying that to the MapLibre map. So I've recently replaced the download button, which would only just give you the GeoJSON that your query returned, and instead it's an export dialog where you can download that same file, copy it to clipboard, but you can now also download the style JSON, so that if you make a map and especially if you're using Overpass and it's a slow query and you're not looking to make a map that is live updated, you just want a fast performant styled map to throw into your web page somewhere else, you can download the style JSON and use that instead of a base map style from whatever provider. And that is it. Okay, I skipped a step. I know a lot of you are new to Ultra, but if you have used Ultra, I have a user survey. If you're new to Ultra, use Ultra a bit, then take the user survey. It's not going to go anywhere. I don't track what people do, so I don't know how people use it. So if you want to let me know how you use it, that would be fantastic. What's next? A lot of my focus lately with using Ultra and supporting some folks using Ultra is to really enable making shareable maps that look good. So there are some capabilities you can already have to add controls that are customizable to the map. I want to add a reload control so that you can not load the whole planet or the whole US, but just a small area, someone pans somewhere else, they can reload the data. And the export, some of these features that Ultra has are runtime that MapLibre doesn't natively support. So I want to have an export to HTML so that the entire map you made in Ultra can work outside of Ultra. So you use it purely as a tool to make your map, and you're not using it to host the map. And that's it. Use it, go to overpassultra.us. Check out the documentation. I've actually written a lot of it, and there are tons of examples at /docs. There's a link to this slide deck, the source code, and feel free to reach out. We are out of time, but there is no speaker after me, I don't think, so hit me up.